Councilman Brannan, welcome.
Thank you, Mona. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Just to give you just a quick run of show, as you know, each candidate, we have 15-minute time slot. Maimuna David's above on screen. She will be timing you for your questions. For each question, it's 90 seconds to a minute and a half. So she will go like this when you reach that 90-second mark. And, it's rapid fire questions. And Maria and I have a lot of questions, especially on behalf of our community partners. So with that being said, let's get started. Justin, please introduce yourself to our audience and share about yourself, and then Maria will start with the questions.
Sure. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Little Africa News, One City Rising, everyone who organized tonight. I'm Councilman Justin Brannan, currently serve as chair of the New York City Council Finance Committee, where I oversee the largest municipal budget in the country at $115 billion. Running for controller now, really because I'm focused on bringing down the cost of living in this city. And I believe that the sharpest tool we have to do that is that $115 billion budget. I want to fight like hell to make sure that every dime of our city budget works for you and works for your family and for the neighborhoods that we all call home. As an elected official, really my every day, I ask myself one simple question, and that is, will the decisions I make today make life better for everyday people? Because I believe that government should be a tool to advance equity, to level the playing field so everyone has equal access to opportunity. But government can't be a tool to advance equity unless it's actually working efficiently. And with a $115 billion budget, it shouldn't be so hard to get by in the city of New York. So many New Yorkers are living paycheck to paycheck. So many New Yorkers are working more than one job. And I hear every day from people, especially young families, telling me that they're considering leaving the city of New York because it's too expensive. It's easier to start a business somewhere else. It's easier to buy a house somewhere else. It's easier to raise a family somewhere else. And we're losing working people. Rich people are not fleeing New York City. Working families are, and we've got to do something about it. We also have a nearly $300 billion pension fund that I think we could be getting more creative with. Obviously, your number one responsibility as controller is to serve as a fiduciary, to deliver strong returns for retirees and invest in our future. You also have to audit agencies and hold every dime of taxpayer money accountable. And look, you have to build these days with the threat of Donald Trump, you're going to have to build a real fiscal firewall to protect New York's future. And that's what I want to do as controller. And I've prepared for this as serving as finance chair for the past almost 4 years.
That's great. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for joining us tonight. It's an honor and privilege to have you here, and thank you also for your years of service and public service to the residents of New York City. I just want to jump right into, you've covered the pension funds, and I want to talk about that a little more in a bit, but I want to just sort of focus on the affordability issue and growth. And from your perspective, what can the controller do to actually improve the fiscal health of New York City, and specifically making the city more affordable, not just focusing on building more housing, but what else can be done to improve living standards, raise wages, attract new businesses to the city, and grow our economy? So how do you see growth fitting into your vision as controller?
Sure. Look, I think when it comes to housing, we have a very, very simple supply and demand problem in this city that I think sometimes it's easier said than done to make people understand that building more housing will actually bring down your rent. We've got more people that want to live in this city than we have places for them to live. It's a pretty simple equation. we need to do more to tackle the absurd cost of living in this city. Income inequality is the reason why working people are still struggling to make ends meet. It's one of the greatest challenges facing our city and our nation. And again, I believe the best tool we have to fight the effects of income inequality is our city budget, which can help improve the cost of living and deliver vital programs that can make life easier for working people. So if we're actually ensuring that the administration is investing in the programs and priorities that can make life more affordable, then we just have a better city. So if we're actually investing in our public schools, if we're investing in our parks and our libraries and our arts and cultural institutions and investing in CUNY, we would have a much better city and a more affordable city. I want to hold agencies accountable to ensure that they're delivering equitable outcomes. I'm going to push for fair wages. I want to invest in programs that raise up the typically under-resourced communities. And I want to ensure that the city budget works to narrow that gap and make New York City livable for all, not just the rich or the well-connected, right? And it's about leveling that playing field. And I think the government, the city government, has a responsibility to do something about it. We can't just sit on our hands while the city spirals out of reach for working people. So I think there's many tools in the toolbox, but the budget and the pension funds are the sharpest tools we have. And that's part of the reason why I'm so excited about being the next controller.
So going into the pension funds, the total pension fund is $285 billion in assets as of February 2025. And our current controller has made a number of significant decisions that many have viewed as politically motivated, but which might not be in the best interest of people who are relying on healthy pension returns. Can you describe your investment philosophy for the pension funds and how you would safeguard and promote the best returns for New York pensioners? And for you, are there any bright lines in terms of investments, companies or industries you would favor versus companies or industries where you would decrease or even eliminate investment or perhaps even increase investment? So we're interested in hearing your philosophy and whether there are areas where you would not invest. And if you could be as specific as possible, that would be great.
Sure. Serving as the city's fiduciary is the most important part of the job, right? Delivering strong returns for retirees and ensuring that future retirees also can rely on a strong and stable pension is paramount for the responsibilities of the controller. Look, our city workers, our public workers have busted their tails for the city, and they deserve every penny of their retirement that they were promised. So as controller, your job is to protect their pensions with smart and strategic investments while putting our money to work for the greater good. So I believe in investments that tackle or get to the heart of fighting climate change, expanding affordable housing, and supporting our MWBEs. We need to diversify the folks who manage our money, right? I am committed to ensuring that our investments drive equity, opportunity, and meaningful change. I want to champion initiatives to strengthen MDIs, minority depository institutions, recognizing the critical role in providing banking services and loans and access to capital in historically underserved communities. These institutions are vital to job creation. They foster small business growth and building generational wealth. I also have a plan to invest pension funds into the creation of affordable housing. I want to get back to the days of when our city was in the business of dreaming big, right? What happened to the leaders in this city who brought to life Mitchell Lama and Manhattan Plaza and Electchester and Penn South and Co-op City? We need to get back in the business of what's possible. And, affordable housing is critical to keeping the city's workforce strong, and it's critical to the survival of the middle class in the city. Teachers, cops, firefighters, nurses, all our first responders, essential city workers, they should be able to live in the neighborhoods that they serve. And I think in partnership with the trustees, I want to champion a plan to create affordable housing specifically for city employees. This would ensure that the people who keep our city running can still afford to live here. It would strengthen our neighborhoods in the process and preserve the middle class. I do not think we should be investing in Tesla. I think it's a bad investment. I think you have better chances, playing roulette in Atlantic City. I think Elon Musk is using his wealth and his political influence to attack the very programs that our seniors rely on. He's trying to gut Social Security, slashing the 9/11 health fund and veterans benefits, and pulling millions of dollars in funding from our city. I want to push to fully divest our city's over $1 billion that we have invested in Tesla, because it's a bad investment. And we should not be investing in an unelected oligarch who's working against our seniors, our veterans, and our values. But I do not believe in playing politics with people's money. First and foremost, your job is to serve as a fiduciary and to ensure that you're getting at least the state-mandated 7% returns on all your investments. Obviously, you want to aim for higher, but that needs to be your number one priority, that whatever investments you make, you want them to align with your values, with the city's values, but you have to be getting that minimum 7% return.
So glad you brought up the issue of housing for city workers, which is a really important issue, and for frontline workers and first responders and people who really should be living in the city and can't afford it. So that's a good segue into another key responsibility of Comptroller is to review all of our city contracts to uphold the higher standards of accountability, transparency, and strict fiscal compliance, and to ensure that corruption has not tainted the award process of the vendor. A top issue for voters, especially in our coalition, is the fact that our budget for service providers who are helping people experiencing homelessness and many of our most vulnerable in New York City has ballooned, doubling in just 2 short years. But there's little understanding of how this money is being spent and whether services being offered are actually working. At the same time, we have seen building owners making massive sums on renting buildings to the city far above market rates for what is called temporary shelter housing. Can you tell us what, if anything, you would do to address this critical issue of ensuring that money we are spending to help our most vulnerable New Yorkers is being spent wisely and appropriately? And how can we move some of this transitional housing to permanent affordable housing, especially in neighborhoods where families and women and other people would really benefit from being close to schools and parks and that sort of thing?
Sure. So we actually had a big rally today on the steps of City Hall, and we had a hearing about a bunch of bills that the City Council is pushing forward because the city needs to pay their bills on time, right? There's a lot of amazing nonprofit organizations that are doing life-saving work. These guys are the unsung heroes of the city, and yet most of them are struggling to stay afloat because they're waiting to get paid back for services rendered for work that they already did, but the city just isn't paying their bills on time. And we entrust these nonprofits to perform critical work, but then the city can't be bothered to reimburse their cost. Now, at the same time, we have to make sure that we're not, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I was, featured in a New York Times article a month or two ago where there's a woman experiencing homelessness in my district who lives on the street. She's been living on the street for over 4 years. Outreach workers have been sent out to her location 50, 60, 70, 80 times, offering her help and assistance and medical attention and grab a shower, get some food, whatever it may be. And she's denying, she denies their outreach. No fault of the outreach workers. They're doing their job and checking a box. But the money that we're spending to send someone out to try to get someone off the street, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, when does it end? And wouldn't that money be better spent on supportive housing to actually get folks off the street and into shelter? I also wrote an op-ed a couple of weeks ago with Gail Brewer, where we spoke about how the city is undermining its own housing goals, because right now it's easier for developers to build homeless shelters than it is to build housing. And that's because the subsidies, it's easier for a developer, developers sitting on a vacant lot of land, blue sky, you can build whatever you want. Developer doesn't want to sit on a vacant lot for 4 years paying taxes on a vacant lot. They want to build. The city says, well, if you build a homeless shelter, we can get you your subsidy tomorrow. if you want to build affordable housing or any kind of housing, that's going to take 2, 3, 4 years. And that's why that's undermining our housing goals, and it's exacerbating our housing crisis. Yes, we need homeless shelters, but we're never going to get ourselves out of the homelessness problem in this city, the homelessness crisis, without building more housing. So the city needs to get its act together in terms of its undermining its own housing goals. So there's a lot of places where I think we can find efficiency. I think New Yorkers overall, no matter what you think of Elon Musk, there are people who don't mind what he's doing with Doge in the sense that he's trying to find savings. I think what he's doing is insane because he's using a sledgehammer instead of a surgeon's blade, and he has no idea what he's doing. But New Yorkers are fed up with waste and corruption and government inefficiency. And, as controller, I would conduct tough, no-nonsense audits, not just to expose where the money is going, but to create a real plan to reform agencies that are stuck in the past, because every dollar in our budget should go towards delivering real results for working families, not political favors or backroom deals. And look, that $115 billion budget, that's made up of our tax dollars, and we deserve to see a return on our investment.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that op-ed. It's involved a building in my neighborhood, so I appreciated that op-ed with Gail Brewer. I can tell you that a member of our group, One City Rising, has made special Doge NY hats, so we might have to send you one to thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure.
Maybe even Paren, but not Elon, something like that. Anyway, thank you so much. It was an honor and privilege to have you here tonight, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Mona, thank you for having me as well. Have a good night.
Night.
Bye.